thrive in the same areas, go to the same stores, suffer together, progress together, just do things together. Stop being afraid of each other. It's just cowardly. It's so cowardly. This whole narrative of how we arrived to these places. You know, how we landed in Hawaii as white people, how we landed in America as white people, how we landed in South Africa as white people. And just, oh, we helped the savages. And, you know, we brought you education. We brought you medicine. We brought you all these things. No, guys, rewrite this whole thing. There's so many simple truths that natives can teach you. Natives of every land, indigenous people of every land can teach you. And you have to be humble enough to sit down and realize that. So it's going to be a lot of baby steps. It's going to be a lot of things. You know, a friend of ours just got pulled over by the cops yesterday, and or they sat him aside on the curb. And my brother took out his camera. My brother's white and tall and just the whitest guy you've ever seen. And he took out his camera and made it clear to the cops, I'm filming you, and I'm standing next to my friend until this is over, and I'm not leaving his side. He's a Samoan guy, so a man of color, brown skin. And those are the things we need to do. If you see a black person being pulled over, especially in America, I mean, it might be a bit different in South Africa because the cops are often also black, so you can have conversations with each other. There's not that kind of racial tension as often. But here, even in black neighborhoods, the cops are still white. So if you see someone being pulled over, pull over with them. Say, hey, are you okay? To the person being pulled over. Are you okay? Are you well? I'll be with you until this is over. Stand next to them.
Even that
Use
example,
your privilege to
even that example you mentioned won't have similar consequences, will it? Because the cops react differently to a white man as they would to another black man filming.
You know, if I was in the car with him, no way they would have shot him. You know, he actually wanted to take ZuLu with him on the drive. And I think they wouldn't have seen him in the back seat, and they would have still just murdered him right there, and my son would have seen it. So that wouldn't have worked. But me being in the car or me being on the scene, I know they wouldn't have shot him. Because it just brings credibility. A woman brings a sense of safety. And a white woman is seen as so innocent and could never hurt anyone. Like, it's just all the stereotypes just fit into. And, you know, I understand cops are afraid. I understand why you're afraid. It's a very dangerous job. I don't take that lightly. I understand that. Because we have to change this entire system of assuming because you're a black, you're a criminal.
I just want to make commentary about a Zulu prince by the name of, hopefully I'm pronouncing his name correctly, Lindani Myeni. Okay. Apparently on April 14th, Lindani Myeni was killed by Hawaiian police officers here in the United States. Mr. Myeni married an American woman, and a year and a half ago they relocated from South Africa to the United States, where they lived in the state of Colorado, as well as, I believe, in the state of Texas. They then decided to relocate to his wife's home in Hawaii. And one of the reasons his wife pointed out they decided to relocate from Colorado and from Texas to Hawaii is due to her husband, the South African ZuLu prince, being pulled over from time to time. So with that being said, they relocate to Hawaii. I don't know how many months they had been there in Hawaii. And on April the 14th, Myeni decided that he was going to take a ride, and I think his wife assumed he may go to the temple to clear his mind and relax and pray. Near that temple was what they called an open air B&B, not just a house, an open air B&B, because there's been a lot of rumors spreading around. He walks inside the open air B&B. It was dark at night, thinking perhaps, at least this is what his wife believes, that was the temple. Nonetheless, it was the Airbnb that he walked into. A lady was obviously inside of the Airbnb. I don't know what kind of communication she had with him, but she immediately called the police because he's black. Doesn't matter if he's Zulu or from South Africa or Somalia. It doesn't matter. He's black. She calls the police, and you can hear on one of the conversations when she spoke to the news reporters how there had been burglaries in that neighborhood where the temple is located as well. So at any rate, the police come. They tell Lindani Myeni to get on the ground while shining a bright flashlight in his eyes he cannot see. Now they tell him this before announcing that they are police. Well, obviously he thinks his life is under attack. So somehow they get into a physical altercation behind it. And he is fatally shot by the Hawaiian Police Department. Okay. Now let's fast forward. The wife was waiting for the body cam. They released, I think, a 4-minute body cam with low visibility because it was at night and it's not very clear and you can't really see much. You certainly don't see the beginning. The only thing they release is them fighting. So you don't know how the fight initiated, how it ended. There's, I guess it's in the middle of the fight. The wife believes there's more body cam footage. With that being said, she asked for her husband's phone back and his personal belongings. And as of this recording, she has not received those things. She also asked for more body cam footage because she's familiar with the neighborhood, being that there's a temple nearby there, and she claims there's a lot of cameras in the area. I don't know how he goes from walking into an Airbnb, from what I understand has happened many times around the world, okay, to calling the police, to getting shot dead. But the only thing I can assume is the color of his skin, because it doesn't appear that they communicated with him. It appears there was no communication. It's sad that he's only been in this country for 1.5 years from South Africa, and he's dead by the hands of the police. A similar situation occurred, I think, in 2017, where 2 police officers ended up killing another foreigner that was on her way, I think, of getting her U.S. citizenship, and she was from Australia. That happened in Minnesota, and the police officer was called to the home of some kind, I'm not sure, but at any rate, it was dark at night, and the Australian woman walked outside her home, and Muhammad Noor shot and killed her. Muhammad Noor is in prison behind that, and that happened in Minnesota, where it took over 1 year for the Derek Chauvin case to get any kind of justice. So let me go back to Lindani Myeni. I'm not sure whether or not the woman inside the Airbnb communicated with him. The attorneys for Myeni have already stated that the body cam footage they've received so far does not show where the police announced who they were, so they can only assume that they didn't, and therefore they can assume that Myeni thought his life was in danger and he was fighting for his life, basically. So with all this said, the wife happens to be white. She's also American from Hawaii, and she believes that it was racially motivated. But I'm going to tell you something. I don't know what's going on with the story. Why he was over there other than taking a ride. Maybe he was planning on going to the temple, because apparently he also took off his shoes when he entered into the Airbnb, the open Airbnb, not just a home, because that's kind of the way it's being reported. And that's not what the wife understands that home to be. She understands it to be an open Airbnb. I don't know what's going on with this story, but here's what I know for sure. They clearly didn't communicate with him. Why couldn't the woman just, instead of calling police, ask him why he was there? And if she did ask, did she believe him? And if she didn't believe him, then the question becomes why? Why didn't the police show a video footage of their body cam where it shows them giving a command to Mr. Myeni? I don't know. But so far, the only footage, it's very dark, so the visibility is very low. You can barely see it, and it's darkness. So far, all you see is them fighting. And then they kill him. When all it really took probably was basic communication. But this seems to be normal, or perceived to be normal. The people in South Africa, it's making headlines. They don't understand it. They don't think it's normal. When the Australian woman got killed in 2017, in Australia, they didn't understand. They didn't think that was normal. How is it that in this country, it's deemed to be normal not to communicate with another human being as a police person before deciding to fire off your weapon? Because I think that there was basically a misunderstanding here. The gentleman that they killed in Hawaii was not just a South African. As I mentioned before, he was a Zulu prince and a rugby star, I believe, for the country of South Africa. He played rugby. He was a celebrity in South Africa. So he had no reason to burglarize a neighborhood or anything like that. So the wife, believing that maybe he was going to the temple nearby that happened to sit next to the Airbnb, the open Airbnb, is very believable. But yet again, we have an explanation for why someone is dead by the hands of the police. And no one else in the world seems to understand it.